Hello, my name is Hassan Sorrells, and this is the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast shorts. There's no co-host on these shorts episodes. These are now around 2 to 4 minute, sometimes as long as 6 to 10 minute observations, ideas, thoughts, or rants about the literature, philosophy, psychology, and even the theology of leadership. Because listening to me talk about leadership for now around 2 to 4 minutes is still better than reading and trying to understand yet another business book. Even that business book your coworker won't stop raving about because it quote-unquote changed their life, but you can't see any difference in their leadership behavior. So how good could that author be?
Leadership requires getting people on board, yes, but it also requires understanding which games you're playing. There are activities, games, and practices that take a long time to bear fruit. Marriage is one of those activities. So is building a business. Most sports, hobbies, or skill sets you may want to get better at take at least 10 years or 10,000 hours to actually, get better at. There are activities, games, and practices that take a short time to bear fruit. On the other hand, spam email is one of those practices or one of those activities. Transactional sales at a gas station or at your big box retail store are another one of those activities. Most advertising efforts that flood your social media feeds, or if you still watch television, are interspersed between your news shows, are short-term games. Then there are activities, games, and practices that take a medium range of time to bear fruit. Your average board game that you play with your children is one of those activities. A project that you may have initiated at work is also one of those practices. Most negotiations that adults and children alike engage in are medium-term negotiations. Leaders understand the games they're playing with their teams, their organizations, and their cultures at a deep level. But more importantly, they understand the importance of cultivating the type of deep thinking that allows them to influence the movement of people and teams toward the type of games that are actually beneficial for their people, their teams, and their cultures. Deep thinking, deep understanding of the game you're playing requires reading. It requires comprehension. It requires writing. And above all else, it requires time to think. We are at a pivotal moment in the development of the internet and in the nature of our human-to-human communications right now, globally and in the West, where the tools of the internet are shifting inexorably, kind of like glaciers moving across a landscape, are inexorably shifting leaders more and more and forcing them to play shallower and shallower short-term games while also creating space, counterintuitively enough, for deeper and deeper long-term games. Think of it like an upside-down bell curve. Leaders who are unwilling to commit one way or the other and go all in one way or the other are going to get destroyed in an increasingly noisy, collapsible, muddled middle ground, which will mostly be populated by ill-thought-out, ill-conceived, and ill-gotten medium-range games. You got to think about which games you want to be in and where you want to be on that inverted bell curve. And well, that's it for me.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast today. And now that you've made it this far, you should subscribe to the audio version of this show on all the major podcast players, including Apple iTunes, Spotify, YouTube Music, and everywhere else where podcasts are available. There's also a video version of our podcast on our YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to the video version of this podcast on the Leadership Toolbox channel on YouTube. Just search for Leadership Toolbox and hit the subscribe button there on YouTube. And while you're doing that, leave a 5-star review if you like what we're doing here on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Just go below the player and hit 5 stars. We need those reviews to grow, and it's the easiest way to help grow this show. And tell all your friends, of course, in leadership. By the way, if you don't like what we're doing here, well, you can always listen to another leadership show. There are several other good ones out there. At least that's what I've heard. All right. Well, that's it for me.